I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me. I have only a past, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah.
All right, it looks like we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of A Look Behind the Curtain with Chris. Very excited about today's episode, and I know a lot of you guys are as well. As the comments and the messages I've been getting today have been absolutely awesome. Guys, really appreciate all the love and feedback about the show, about the guests, and again, just really excited to dive into our guest here today. Sorry, we had a couple tech issues here just a minute ago, but we got it all sorted out, and so we are ready to rock and roll. What is up, Jason? Good to see you, brother. Jason is actually the reason I know today's guest, and we'll probably get into a little bit of that here later. But what's up, Sam? How are you doing, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. And what is up, Michael? I'll be in Texas in 3 weeks, so very, very cool. So as you guys know, the purpose of this show is to kind of share in the wealth of the conversations and the networking and the people that I actually get to interact with, have conversations with, learn from, get inspired by. And I figured to myself a couple of years back, why keep that all to myself? Why not share that with the world? It's truly a gift to learn someone else's life, learn their experiences, learn what they've overcome, and use that as inspiration and actually get to have that human connection. So I love that we get to do that here on the show. I love that we get to feature a lot of first responders, veterans, those people who truly go out there and sacrifice for the greater good of everyone else. And so today is no difference. Today, the special guest we have is a 12-year wildlife firefighter, and 10 of those years he was a hotshot. And so I'm sure we'll be diving into a little bit of that, as well as his amazing contributions that he is doing to give back to the veteran community around PTSD, suicide awareness, suicide prevention, and depression. But before we dive into that, we do have to hear from our episode's sponsor, the reason we get to jump on here and share these amazing people with you at absolutely no cost to you. So here we go. Let's hear from our sponsor quick.
What is up? It's your brother in success, Chris Celeste. And I don't know about you, but after the military, life got really hard. They say serving our country can be one of the greatest things a man or woman can do, and I truly believe that. But I also believe it shouldn't be the last great thing a man and woman does, right? There's so much more life after the service. But if you're anything like I was, 19, completely disabled, feeling miserable, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and actually having doctors tell you there's no light at the end of the tunnel, to be happy that you're accepting a disability check and that at least you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life. Well, I'll tell you, for about a decade, I lived in that misery, and I self-destructed, over-medicated, drank my problems away, tried to escape that life. But that wasn't the answer. In the last 5 years, I've been able to go on a journey and discover what truly takes to change one's life and to start creating and living in abundance, fulfillment, happiness, joy. And so last year, I took everything I knew and partnered up with an amazing veteran named Liam Weisner and started a company called Operation Veteran Freedom. And in just the last year alone, we've helped thousands of veterans find their purpose again. We've helped hundreds of veterans start a business of their dreams. And we've even helped a few make $1 million. Actually, we just had one make $1 billion just last month. So the OVF took everything that we knew and we applied it to veterans, and we're helping them get results. However, Liam and I, we're only 2 people, and we can't get to all of you guys en masse. So what we did is we took the 5 core fundamental secrets that you need to understand to start unlocking this life for yourself and start building the foundation of success. And we put it all into one book so you can easily digest it and start taking action on it. And that book is called the DD214 Secrets. Now, somewhere around this video, you're going to see a link or a button where you can click and actually download a free version of that ebook. Now, you can go to Amazon and pay full retail.
Now, as you can see, I just wanted to share that quick sponsorship with you guys. You can click the link below, get your free copy. But without further ado, please help me welcome to the call an amazing man, a father, a firefighter, and a man who is doing his part to give back to the veteran community in an amazing way, Mr. Eddie Aguilar, the author that we are going to dive into his amazing book here tonight, Lasting Impact, Navigating the the effects of suicide. What's up, brother? How are you doing?
Hey, doing good, doing good. Appreciate the invite and happy to be on your show. Love what you're doing.
Appreciate it, brother. I absolutely love what you're doing, and I can't wait to really dive into it here tonight. As you guys are jumping on, say what's up to Eddie. And if anything jumps out to you guys here tonight in the definitely comment below what you're feeling. Your engagement is definitely welcome and adds a lot to the content here tonight. So make sure you're definitely saying what's up. Sam's saying great to be here. What is up, Sam? So Eddie, before we dive into your amazing life and a lot of the things that you've overcome and some of the amazing things that have come from that, let's start with, you know, where did you start? Like, where's your origin? Who was little Eddie? Where'd you grow up? Who did you want to be?
And that's funny. You said Little Eddie. That's what my family calls me because I was named after my uncle on my dad's side. So he was Big Eddie, and of course I was Little Eddie. But I grew up in a small town, Williams, Arizona. If you've been to the Grand Canyon, you might have passed through the town. It's kind of, they call it the gateway to the Grand Canyon. Town about 2,500 up in the pines. For those of you that don't know, Arizona does have four seasons higher up in northern Arizona. And just grew up playing sports, being your typical kid, staying out till dark as long as I could. And I actually wanted to be a baseball star. And a lot of it was because my dad had been coaching Little League, so I was always around baseball practices. And we had Billy Hatcher, who was from Williams, who ended up going pro, played for the Cubs, played for the Reds, and won a World Series in the 90s, or in 90, I believe it was. And just grew up wanting to play baseball, but I just had nothing other than really still didn't give the attention to putting in the work to get there. I just thought it was going to come natural, but of course it didn't. So, but always been competitive, love athletics, and that's kind of what carried me on from high school to hotshotting to where I am now.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's, I can definitely see that about you. Just you're a very athletic guy, especially with what I know of you in the last few years. That makes a lot of sense that that's your background. So let's touch a little bit on the fears as a firefighter. How did you get involved with that?
What was funny was to backtrack before that, when Desert Storm broke out, I think it was 90, so 89, 90, somewhere around there. I wanted to enlist, and I went to my dad and talked to him and told him, I said, hey, I said, I think I'm going to enlist. You know, war just broke out, or we're going to war or whatever. I think I'm going to enlist and be a veteran like you, or be a soldier like you. And he did everything he could to talk me out of it. He told me, one thing he says, I fought, I got shot, so you don't have to. Your grandfather served, both your grandfathers served, so you don't have to. Your uncles have served, so you don't have to. And it was weird because I was seeing a fear in his eye, and it wasn't until later that I recognized it wasn't the worry of me getting killed in combat. It was more of me coming back from war the way he came back. And so I ended up saying, okay, just scrap that. And I had two uncles that were firefighters, wildland firefighters. So in between college, so I had to pay my own way to go to college with a little bit of help from the VA, and ended up just getting into fighting forest fires during the summer, and then go back to school. And then when I got into hot shotting, that was a whole different world, and fell in love with it.
So for people who aren't familiar with what a hot shot is, what's the difference between a hot shot and a firefighter?
So as a wildland firefighter, initially I worked on the engine, which would be like there's several types of engines. One was like a truck where it was fixed to carry a 150-gallon water tank on the back. So it was just running hose, spraying water, more or less. You're working with a crew of 3 or a crew of 6 on a bigger engine. As far as a hotshot crew's 20-person crew, or at least back in the day when it started, it was a 20-person crew. And it was that same crew stuck together throughout, you know, from beginning of fire season to end of fire season. And essentially they've been called the Navy SEALs of wildland fire. Those are the guys that you don't carry hose and you don't spray water. You get out and you're using tools, Pulaski, shovels. We made our own tools, rhinos. You'd sleep out on the fire line. Sometimes you'd be out on the fire line for a good week, sleeping and eating while they fly stuff to you where, no vehicles have access. So you got to see a lot of beautiful country and a lot of trashy country. So, but I got to travel all over Canada a couple times, East Coast, just anywhere there was wildland fire, I was there.
That's awesome. And I know a little bit about that just from talking to you in the past, and I'm glad that you were able to share it, because I think a lot of people, when they think of, firefighters, they think, the helicopters dropping water, they think people out there with hoses. It's not usually the guy out there digging the trench or cutting down the trees to prevent the fire from spreading, or to, make sure that they can hold that fire in place until it can be put out or extinguish itself. They don't think of that. And that's crazy to think that, you're out there as the fire is blazing, coming at you with no more than, a shovel or, some tools, doing your best to make sure that no one else gets hurt, that no more land gets destroyed. I think that, Navy SEALs of firefighting is probably a good definition for that, right? I think that's a great way of explaining it. So
yeah. There was a lot of in the main way we fought fire wasn't just digging and creating fire breaks. A lot of it was fighting fire with fire. So once we created those breaks, then we would use fire to protect the line that we ended up digging. So we try and eat away the fuel or burn away the fuel before the fire got to us. So you'd go indirect, which would mean far away from the fire's edge, and then try and burn out, or it depends if it's not that hot, as far as, the temps aren't that hot, then you can go direct along the fire's edge. So it's a little bit of this and that, calling in helicopters, calling in planes. So you do a lot of the groundwork. So yeah, I loved it. I'd missed it.
Wow. So how do you go from loving the work, being out there, getting to be active like you love, to then 17 years ago wanting to take your life and then ultimately moving to writing this book? How does that transition happen for you?
So it goes back to like my whole childhood, playing sports, growing up, played any sport that whatever was in season is what I played. So in high school, I played football, basketball. I did baseball and track at the same time. Did that all through high school. Got out of high school, then it was kind of like, I was actually I went to Yavapai College. I was going to try and walk on for baseball. And to be honest, I just chickened out. And then after that, I called myself out. And what was funny was, after I left high school, my brother became a freshman in high school. And a lot of the teams that they went and played, they heard his last name. So they would ask him, hey, where's your brother playing college ball at? And he would tell me, he'd come up to me, or when I'd go see him, and he was like, everybody, from Baghdad or from Mogollon or from these other schools or other towns, he's like, everybody's wanting to know where you're playing college ball at. And I go, what, baseball? He said, no, football. I was like, I never thought I would really see myself playing college football. And so finally I said, screw it. I decided, after chickening out in baseball, my second year in college, I was going to go down to Mesa Community, came down to Mesa down here in the Phoenix Valley area, and I prepared all during fire season. I was running, I was working on my throwing and whatnot, and decided I was going to try and walk on for football. And doing so, what was funny was I was a quarterback, and I was quarterback because I was a small town. So I was quarterback, linebacker, punter, punt return, and all that. I never wanted to be quarterback, but for some reason I always ended up in the quarterback position. And that happened with the same when I went to college and tried out for the team, and found out I was ineligible from the year prior. And so they said, we want you to come back. We want you to work on your grades and blah, 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 blah. And we want you to come back next year. And finally I was just like, I know I'm not going pro. I'm not going to be playing Pac-12. It's time to figure out what's next. And then when I got into hotshotting, that replaced my my love for competition as far as being a hotshot. So that was 12 years of that. And during that time, as years grew on, I realized that a lot of the older men that I worked with fight fire were unhappy, just grumpy, just ticked off at anything and everything. But then you'd see that my daughter's graduating this week. Well, then what the heck are you doing out here on the fire? Or my son's getting married and they're stressed to high hell. and whatnot. So I told myself I was never going to be that guy. And so I ended up getting married, and then decided to walk away. And I had even my FMO guy that ran the forest I was on was going to create a job for me. He's like, I'll create a job for you. I don't want to lose you. And I was like, if I'm not going to be in fire, I don't want to be with the Forest Service anymore. So I walked away. So by then I was already married, and going from there to the point of wanting to take my own life. It was a loss of identity. I had somebody feeding me toxicity, telling me I wasn't no good. And this was a person that was supposed to build me up, and I allowed myself to believe it. Not putting the blame on that person. I'm taking ownership for that. But I allowed myself to believe what I was being told, and I was trying to figure out who I was. And I told myself I was happy that I was good with not being a hotshot anymore, that my identity wasn't a hotshot, that my identity now was dad. And that was what I was working towards. And a bunch of things snowballed, and a good friend of mine that I was reaching out to during that time ended up taking his own life. And then that set off the trigger. So within a week of battling him doing that, I had a night where me and my wife at the time were just having an argument, and I just said, Robert must have had the right idea. And she knew what I meant by that. Grabbed my son. My daughter was already out of the house. She was at a sleepover, and she took off. And that's where I was sitting by myself in the bedroom with a Remington 870 Wingmaster.
What stopped you?
You call it divine timing, you call it God, you can call it my boy Robert. Had the butt of the gun on the ground, was leaned over, had the barrel in my mouth, had my finger on the trigger, and slowly started squeezing the trigger. And right before I got to that breaking point of where I knew that, because I've shot my shotgun enough for hunting, and I knew I was getting close, because there was a little bit of play in it. I heard my buddy Robert's voice asking me, I just left my daughter behind, and now you're going to leave your 2 kids behind? And scared the hell out of me. And so I pushed the shotgun away from me and just broke down and bawled my eyes out. So, he was like the 6th or 7th person that I knew that had taken their own life. And I never thought I would get to that point. But that was one of those things that I just said, I didn't question it. I just knew it was my time to go, and I guess share my message. Eventually that took a long time to do, but to share. I've dealt with over 20 plus suicides, plus had that moment myself, plus helped Robert's mom get through her losing Robert, which was her only son. And for whatever reason, the topic of suicide just kept coming, anywhere from losing a 14-year-old boy who I coached in baseball with my son, to a guy I hot-shotted with his son, to you name it, a good friend's widow. She was murdered by her husband, and he took his life right after, while her daughters were in the bed in the house. For whatever reason, the topic kept coming and coming and coming. So I decided to speak up a little bit and try and share something.
Yeah, it seems like all the signs, as unfortunate as all that is, all the signs were screaming for you to be a voice in that and be able to be a light inside of all of that darkness. If there would be one thing, so you would say to somebody who was out there who was thinking about taking their own life, what would you say to that person?
Fight one more day, get through today. Because there's a lot more that I would say, or I would talk to, or I'd convince, but it goes back to like Jocko. Jocko talks about procrastination. Well, if you're going to procrastinate today, working out today, let's put that off till tomorrow. So let's just go ahead and get our workout in today, because we don't want to do it, even though we don't want to do it. And let's just not do it tomorrow. We'll deal with what comes up tomorrow. but then tomorrow might be a better day. Tomorrow might be a day where you go, okay, whew, whatever. I didn't feel like working out yesterday. Or, you know what? One thing that helped me was journaling. And that's where I got into my writing is I would journal. I'd write. And I'd go back later when I wasn't in that mood or in the emotion and look at myself, what I had written. And I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't scared of what I was thinking or how I felt. I just looked at it and go, okay, you got some shit to work with here. Like, you got some issues, whatever they are. You're ticked off at the world, or you know what? Or maybe it was a legitimate issue. But hey, how many people have been through this thing that you're upset about? You're not alone. So if you can keep fighting for one more day, and like my motto is, one of my mottos is next 10 steps. And I used to say that when I was hotshotting. And it was funny because I never realized I was saying it until I had conversations with a lot of hotshots after we've been gone. And a lot of them said, I always hear next 10 steps, because everybody wants to know where's the top, how much further till we hit the top of the mountain or the top of, or tying our fire line or whatever. It's like, that top ain't going anywhere. So just focus on the next 10 steps. And once you get those next 10 steps in, then focus on the next 10 steps. You got to chunk it up, and little by little, and just keep chunking at it. If you're battling today, if you're battling with your emotions, you're battling something's going on, just focus on the next 10 steps. What can you do at this moment to help yourself? And, there are many solutions, but they're all based on circumstance. My circumstance versus your circumstance. If we're both feeling down and depressed, the solution for me at this moment might be one thing, as for you, it might be a different thing. So to pinpoint what to do and what to, all I got to say is, one, just know you're not, just one more day, and that's how you got to start.
I love it. One more day. Simple, and just keep pushing. So you mentioned the next 10. When I first started getting to really know you, you had one of the conversations we had was about your next 10 on me, and the fundraiser that you were doing in honor of America's Mighty Warriors and Mark Lee's memory. What drove you to choose veterans to give back to and not, specifically hotshots or firefighters? What drove you to start that particular fundraiser?
So it actually started before Next 10. I created an event for myself called, I didn't even know if a buddy took my idea and the concept and turned it around and called it 11 Summits, and he blew it up. And I was a part of that as well. But what triggered it was, I came home from work one day, and I don't know if my ex-wife might have reached out to me, but her husband's best friend had taken his own life, and he treated both my kids like niece and nephew, and they looked up to him like an uncle. And I came home, and my son is like, Dad, I was just thinking, so I felt something bad was coming. And then, so-and-so took his life. Well, at the age of 15, he dealt with 2 suicides, my son. So I was like, all right, son, let's start having a talk. And I asked myself, what can I do to help him see life isn't always easy. Things aren't always simple. And at that time, my girlfriend, she had told me, she goes, hey, have you heard of this hike in Flagstaff? It's called the Flagstaff Thurston 4. It's Eldon, O'Leary, Humphreys, and Kendrick. So you got to hike all four hikes within 24 hours. It's 32 miles, over 10,000 foot elevation climb. And I hadn't done it yet. And then there's Phoenix has a Phoenix 7 Summit Challenge or something like that as a fundraiser. So I was like, you know what? I wonder if anybody's put the two together. And so I just wanted a personal challenge, because for me, what feeds me and fuels me is physical I need to be physical, like working out, running, hiking, whatever. So I did this 11 Summit deal, and that time I raised money for 22 Kill. But that one I was more focused on um, trying to complete the thing, because I'd never done anything like that. But what I started to find was I started thinking about how can I attack this topic of suicide to where I feel comfortable. And rather than going directly towards me and my story, veterans have played a huge part of my life. My dad, both my grandfathers, many of my uncles have served. But growing up, my dad, with his PTSD and alcoholism and abuse and whatnot, I, I could try and tell the story from the receiving end of it in a roundabout way, rather than saying, because no, I have not dealt with that PTSD. I cannot say I know what it is you're feeling, and nor am I going to try and act like I know what it is you're feeling. But I've seen stuff similar in certain veterans that I grew up with. And I've it's all, veterans have always been important to me. So when I came up with the next 10 on me, I wanted to find, I reached out to JP Donnell, who actually works with Jocko Willink. And I messaged him, said, hey, I know with you guys in Echelon Front, I'm looking for a legitimate, good organization that helps veterans. And he said, hey, reach out to Mama Lee, which is Mark Lee's mom, and reach out to her and talk to her. So the veterans aspect has always been important to me, because that's how I grew up around veterans.
That's awesome. I definitely could see the through line there for you. And to me, I don't really see, there's such a great similarity for anybody who is willing to sacrifice for the greater good of others. Some of us see more horrific scenes than others, but I believe that there's always a level of, cops, firefighters, they see death, they see trauma, emergency workers who are out there putting people back together, fixing people's cracked skulls. That stuff stains the back of the mind. And so I think it's awesome to have organizations out there and people like you who support them, who can help people who have seen those kinds of things understand the reality of it all, and then not be stuck in the trauma of it, and actually be able to grow from the situation and not, suffer through it. So I was talking to J Boom earlier, our mutual friend. He said he's heading up to Flagstaff to support you in speaking. What are you going to be speaking about?
What's funny was I had a young man. I had this gal I grew up with reach out to me. She said, "Hey, my son read your book. He'd like to jump on. He's working on creating a movie, so on and so forth. Would you mind jumping on with him on a Zoom call?" So I was like, "No, not at all." So I jumped on a call with him, and he'd read my book, was asking me about certain parts of my book. Loved the book, and he's like, "Hey, I'm working on a movie. Here's the storyline, so on and so forth." And we started this talking back and forth, and he's like, "Oh, I love that idea." And then he was writing notes like, "I'm going to change that in the movie," and then this and that. And I just kept, we're just having a casual conversation. And then he goes, "I got one last thing to ask you." So I was like, "Yeah, what's that?" He's like, "I got a small role that needs to be filled, and you'd be perfect for it." And I was like, "Well, does that include talking? Or am I just a standby, camera rolls right by, oh, there's Eddie, and that's it." He's like, "No, it's the father of the main character." So it's like, shit. I was like, all right, I guess, yeah, for the greater good, I'm up there. And so I went back home, or up to Flagstaff where I used to live, and showed up, and we filmed a couple scenes with me in it. And it was funny because it was so un-me. The clothes he had me wearing was so not me. Even acting a certain way, but I knew what he was trying to do with this film. He wanted to get the message out on how suicide impacts us as individuals, and especially what he's doing. He's bringing at the teenage level, at the high school level as well. So he got the movie. The movie's done. Sent it to several film festivals. It's in Tokyo Film Festival. Got honorable mention. It got accepted at a Las Vegas Film Festival. He said that one's a smaller one. He's got like 4 or 5 other ones. He won't hear back until like June. And so he's like, hey, finally got it all done. COVID's done. You know, hey, we're going to have a showing up here in Flagstaff. So I was like, all right, sweet, I'll be there. And then he said, would you be interested in speaking? If not, that's okay. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, would you be willing to speak for both events or both showings? And I was like, definitely. He's like, bring your books, sell some books if you want, so on and so forth. So going up there, and that's where Jason's great. We were feeding back, and I kind of hit with him like, hey, here's where I'm looking at going. This is how I'm going, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and him and I relate a lot. That's one thing I love about Jason is him and I are similar in certain aspects, and this is one of those aspects. So I'm blessed that he's going to go up, support me, also film it, film both of my talks. My mom's be there for my acting debut. And then my son will be there. My daughter, she's in nursing school, so she can't make it. And my girlfriend Jody will be there as well. So hopefully it's a good showing. So it'll be interesting.
Awesome, brother. Congratulations. It's perfect alignment for who you are, the message you're trying to get out there, and a great opportunity to just be another voice for that too, and join in with others on that amazing mission. So that's really great. 30 minutes just flies by. Unfortunately, we're at the top of our time. So if someone's looking to grab your book on the replay, where would they go ahead and grab your book from?
To grab my book, it's Mindset MTN. So mindsetmountain.com/lasting impact. That just takes you straight to the Amazon website.
Awesome. And I'll also make sure the link's down in the description of the video, so anybody watching this on the replay can grab it. And as a quick little gift and bonus, anyone who is watching here live and commented while we were watching, message me your address and I will personally be buying you a copy of Eddie's book and sending it to you for being here tonight as a gift from me to you, because I do really believe in what Eddie is doing and getting his message out there. And so would love to help support that message. So anybody who is here tonight and commented, make sure you message me your address and I will be sending you a copy of Eddie's book. Eddie, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciated hearing more of your story, more of your mission. Can't wait to have you on again here in the future and talk more about your amazing film debut and your speaking gigs and more about your amazing challenges that you do. So again, brother, just thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the invite. It's good talking with you.
And so for everybody else, again, just send me your address via messenger. That way you don't have to drop it in the comments for all the world to see. And I will be able to send you a copy of the book here, have it out ASAP so you can have it. So as soon as I have your message, I'll get it out to you. And just thank you all for being here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It absolutely costs you nothing, and it means the world to growing this channel and getting more people's amazing messages out to the world. And so comment your biggest takeaway below, and we'll be seeing you next Thursday with another amazing guest. And thank you again, Eddie. Show him some love in the comments, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.